Hello everyone. Behind the familiar train whistle are moments that make everyone stunned. Let's review with me the unbelievable moments on the train recorded by the camera. You may not believe your eyes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming exciting videos. The opening scene shows a derailed Union Pacific train in Los Angeles, stuck between destroyed tracks. A scary moment in the emergency stop test. The train, running at 25 kilometers per hour, couldn't stop in time and crashed straight into the Metro line's crash pad. During filming Mission Impossible 7 at Darlton Quarry, the carriage suddenly falls, turning the scene into a breathtaking real-life moment. In Lac La Biche, Alberta, Canada, dashcam recorded the moment the train suddenly appeared behind the trees, even though the warning lights on the track were not working. The tractor-trailer had only seconds to avoid disaster. In the middle of the capital, a narrow street is close to the train tracks. Every time the train passes by, the house doors shake by a distance of only a hand's breadth. A moose suddenly ran straight onto the tracks, right in front of an oncoming train. The moment was unbelievable. Warman, Saskatchewan. A train derailed during commuter hours, creating chaos on the tracks. Driverless train catches fire in Gengenbach, Germany. Fire engulfs Black Forest line. A reckless driver tried to jump over a railway barrier in a dangerous act that almost cost him his life. Warning: crossing the railway is dangerous and illegal and can cost your life. Heavy rains in Bikaner flooded streets and railway tracks, paralyzing the city in water. Bangladesh train overloaded. People covered from carriage to roof. An unbelievable but true scene. In 1994, while filming a train, disaster struck. The train derailed right in front of the camera. No scenario could have predicted it. Train derails in mud. Scene of pulling train off tracks is fully recorded on video. Between Bangkok, the railway market and the floating market are crowded, just a few centimeters from the train wheels. A small mistake can lead to a big accident. The train carrying the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle is so heavy on the tracks, if it derails, a military disaster can happen. The Flying Scotsman roared through Twyford Station at 75 miles per hour, with crowds watching in shock and horror as the train thundered past. Mumbai, stay strong, help each other, and show the world the indomitable spirit of this city. During the day at Station Square, a train derailed, and cargo spilled all over the tracks. The tram carefully passed through the curved curve. Every meter of the road was potentially dangerous. The ICE 403 moves slowly across the water, creating a scene that is both spectacular and dangerous. Right in Fukushima Station, two Shinkansen trains rushed past at 320 kilometers per hour. The sound and pressure stunned everyone. Quorn, 2013 train 46521 with TPO postal carriage ran the red signal without checking the rail lock, a momentary mistake that almost turned into disaster. Dawlish after Storm Babet, huge waves washed over the tracks. Train 2U10 departed 5-6 minutes late, slowly crossing the line between safety and danger. Saginamiya Station, rush hour passengers stuck in train doors. Police rushed in to rescue in the sea of people. The old unmanned train slowly passed through the eerily quiet jungle. On a Chinese railway bridge, two trains rushed in opposite directions at breakneck speed, a moment on the line between safety and disaster. BNSF 2038 gives way to the new BNSF 2294 locomotive that leads the Industrial Park Transit Train north, strong and powerful. Renton, Washington. The Renton rocket train carrying a Boeing 737 fuselage speeds along the legendary Pacific Coast Railway. The ship shot off at breakneck speed, leaving behind a trail of deafening sounds and violent vibrations. In Kanagawa, the Shonan monorail line hangs suspended in mid-air as it passes through tight curves. Just the slightest misstep could send the entire train plummeting to the street below. The rusty old train slowly moved forward, the metallic sound echoing in the sad silence. Heavy rains fell on Mumbai. The train struggled to pass through the flooded water, the iron wheels grinding slowly in the heavy rain. Would you dare to sit on this train in the pouring rain? Leave a comment. The power failure caused the lights on the train to flicker. Passengers held their breath amid the unsettling flashing lights. On the Braganza Ghat, the Amaravathi train passes the Dudhsagar Falls, which tumble down in majestic beauty mixed with danger. just a step away from the abyss. The track was winding. Two trains were going in opposite directions and collided head-on, a horrifying moment that made anyone who witnessed it shudder. In the middle of the vast Lake Berlin, an old train runs on flooded tracks, a scene like the fragile boundary between reality and the abyss. In Norway, the giant Balehack Railway snowblower roars through a blizzard, whipping up ice that's head-high in a show of force in the harsh outdoors. Diesel locomotive 2TE10M is being checked for its potentiometer, thick black smoke billowing up as the engine roars, creating a scene that is both powerful and terrifying. Colorado's historic Cumbres and Toltec Railroad is a 64-mile journey along the scenic route. The scenery is breathtaking, but one wrong step and you're off the beaten path. The train passed through an area where power lines were tangled on the tracks, causing the power system to be pulled down, causing serious damage and disrupting the entire communication network. A train suddenly rushed across the highway without warning, a chaotic and extremely dangerous moment. Live on camera, the train crashed into another track at high speed. The terrifying collision shook the entire area. Kaduna-Abuja train derails railway, once a symbol of safety, now a potential hazard due to deteriorating infrastructure and lack of maintenance. The Lake State train derailed, its oil tankers overturned on the tracks. A terrifying moment, though no casualties. Moments on the tracks range from terrifying to breathtaking, reminding us that the power of steel and speed always walk a fine line between safety and disaster. Every image, every sound of metal clashing is a reminder. Respect the railway, because just one small deviation can cost a life. Subscribe to my channel to continue discovering unbelievable stories from the world of trains. Yet, this is the lifeline connecting towns submerged in snow. If you sit in a cabin with almost zero visibility, do you dare believe that the train will take you to safety? And that's just a story, because we go further. The train moves through the clouds. Now we climbed high above sea level, past the clouds, into the air where there should be no trains. But they still exist, and they run on tracks that look like ropes stretched across the mountains. This is the trip Argentina's train to the clouds, Treneless Noobs, an extremely dangerous route, reaching the sky at an altitude of more than 4,200 meters. This altitude is higher than the altitude of some commercial flights. But don't let the views fool you. This is not a trip for the faint of heart. Construction began in 1921. It took 27 years, not because of laziness, but because of danger. The terrain was too wild for traditional methods, so engineers had to rewrite the rules. Spirals, sharp turns, sky bridges clinging to rock like spiders to glass. 29 bridges, 21 tunnels, 2 complete spirals. There was a rumor, whispered among locals, that in the 1,960 seconds, an entire train had to be evacuated when too many passengers collapsed from altitude sickness. Official report: quiet, mountains noisy. In 2005, floods destroyed part of the track. The train was out of service for nearly 6 years. It took extensive renovations, reinforcements, and stronger safety systems to get it back up and running. And even now, rockslides and storms threaten the line. Still, it functions as a test of human limits. If you had to take only one thing with you on this train, courage, oxygen, or camera, what would you choose? Comment and share your views. Now, let's move to another train. Devil's Nose, and often referred to by locals as Neris del Diablo, is a craggy peak in the Ecuadorian Andes where the air is thinner and history runs deeper. More than 2,000 lives were lost building just 12 kilometers of this cursed railway. Now it's billed as a beautiful, winding ride, but what visitors don't see are the bones beneath the tracks. Back in 1899, Ecuador dreamed of connecting the port of Guayaquil with the capital Quito, but the Andes were not easy to conquer, especially the Devil's Point with its 800-meter high cliffs. To conquer it, engineers came up with a zigzag rail system, forcing the train to go back and forth on the mountainside as if defying gravity. However, this project was almost impossible, because the difficulty came not only from the calculations, but also from the mountain itself and the deadly jungle that surrounded it. The workers were mostly poor, slaves or tricked migrant workers from Jamaica and China, who faced wild animals like jaguars and venomous snakes, and deadly diseases like malaria and dysentery. Today, visitors still marvel at the spectacular landscape, but hidden beneath each steel rail is a silent cemetery, where beauty and blood blend together. And that's just one example. Now, let's dive in and explore an equally creepy road, the Chennai-Ramaswaram Railway Bridge in India. At first glance, it looks like a flat stretch of land across the water, but it is actually one of Asia's most dangerous railway lines. Standing out at over 2 kilometers long, connecting Chennai to Ramaswaram Island, it has to withstand cyclones, tides, and gale-force winds. As a result, when winds are above 58 kilometers per hour, all trains are forced to stop. Memories of the tragic year 1964 still haunt us, when Typhoon Pamban reached 240 kilometers per hour and swept away bridges and trains, claiming more than 200 lives. Fishermen still tell of the lights and the rumbling sound of ghost ships on the sea. But the bridge still exists out of duty, taking pilgrims to the sacred land, maintained daily by engineers. Now we enter a different battlefield, no longer a battle against nature, but a struggle between ambition and physics. Suspension Bridge Chhajiarani's proof that not only can it span great distances, but it can also defy gravity. Suspended over a 350-meter deep gorge, the bridge is more than 2 kilometers long, taller than the Eiffel Tower, and was built faster than many home renovations. The valley was too weak for helicopters, forcing engineers to use drones to pull the first cables. The winds were so fierce that one misstep could send the cable and equipment tumbling down. More than 30 high-resolution surveillance cameras were installed to monitor the tension and movement of the steel. In the end, the project was completed in just 2.5 years, millions of dollars over budget and causing global shock. But wait, it gets even bolder. Next is Longjiang Suspension Bridge in Yunnan. The monster holds the record for the world's longest single-span suspension bridge with just one main pylon. The tower is 233 meters high, supported by 154 cables that stretch across the valley like an iron spider web. Even during the pandemic, work did not stop. Digging robots, tunnel boring machines, and capacity monitoring systems turned a multi-year project into a 4-month sprint. The anchor had to be drilled more than 100 meters into the rock, and even one loose bolt could have caused disaster. But the payoff is game-changing. The bridge becomes the lifeline of a 9,000-kilometer highway linking Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. A journey that once took 90 minutes now takes just 2 minutes. Trade boomed, tourism grew, and villages once isolated by fog were now able to sell their goods to the world. Now they come forward Binduang Bridge, a structure with a story carved into concrete. The central tower is 332 meters high, holding the record for the tallest concrete bridge tower in the world. But its significance goes beyond height. It is heritage. The design is inspired by the Hmong costume motifs, combining tradition with cables and steel. Costing more than $211 million, the bridge is not only beautiful, but also resistant to heat, corrosion, and earthquakes. Its mission is to connect Pingtang, the only path leading to the planet's largest telescope, fast for space exploration. Now look up. Between the clouds and sky, the Dihang Gorge stretches across Ahai Bridge, a glass walkway connecting the mountain peaks. Walking through here is like floating, with a 336-meter-high vertical cliff below. The bridge is suspended by 85 centimeters thick cables, each weighing up to 8 tons, spanning mountains where even birds are afraid to fly over. For local residents, the bridge shortened the journey from 4 hours to less than an hour. For farmers, it brought tourism, money, and new livelihood opportunities. But the question is, if there was a bridge that not only crossed the cliff, but also slid down to the ocean floor, it would be a unique wonder. Now leave the sky and dive into the ocean, where China is building the 55 kilometers Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge across the Pearl River Delta. Not only the world's longest sea-crossing bridge, but also a bold statement. Restricted airspace and shipping routes forced engineers to choose a 6.7 kilometers long, 50 meters deep underground tunnel solution that could withstand storms, earthquakes, and high tides. Instead of buying international designs, they invented their own flooded tunnel technology, and more than 500 patents were issued. The 80,000-ton tunnel was laid by hand, with 2 artificial islands at either end, each built from 120 steel pillars like spearheads. After 9 years, the project was completed in 2018, shortening the 4-hour ferry journey to a 45-minute drive. But maintenance costs of more than $30 million a year still have to be paid to keep the trade and technology lifeline. Behind this wonder lies mystery, traces of death and hidden railways that have never been told. And some routes were so remote that only when the steel was laid did people realize they didn't belong there. In the frozen north, where gold rush meets ice, the White Pass in the Yukon cuts like a scar carved into the mountains from Alaska to Canada. Born during the Klondike Rush of the 1,890 seconds, it is famous not for gold, but for deaths. The narrow gauge line climbed more than 910 meters in just 20 meters, with no tunnels, just sharp turns, wooden bridges, and cold abysses. Thousands of desperate workers, without coats or even shoes, froze to death on the spot. Sudden avalanches, failed blasts, and falling rocks wiped out many people. To this day, it is said that if you take a train in winter and look closely, you will see frozen old boots, pickaxes sticking out of the ice, ghostly objects left from hands that never returned. Now come to New Zealand, peaceful and picturesque. But the Gisborne-Napier Railway carries an unusual danger. It runs right over an airport runway. At Gisborne Airport, trains and planes share the same ground. No bridges, no tunnels, just straight tracks on asphalt. When trains run, planes are forced to stop. When planes land, trains must give way. Although only 20 kilometers long, it drops 867 meters from Myrtle Station to the sea, making it one of the steepest standard gauge lines in the world. with an angle of 1 inch 18, almost vertical in railway terms.